Many of my favourite recipes are pies and puds. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that, but today I've got a savoury and sweet surprise with a splash of Jamaican sunshine. Today, I want to rekindle your affection for the hearty British comfort food that generations have thrived on. There's something on my menu for everyone. Coming up, Blackberry and Apple Crumble is a classic pud that I've been baking for years, but I've discovered something that takes it to a whole new realm. Seaweed. Trust me, this works. I want the seeds to come out, I want the pumpkin seed, I want the sunflower seeds to come out, I want the oats to be heightened, I want the wholemeal flour to smell beautiful. And fantastic flavours with fungi. I meet the lads who've discovered a unique way of growing these magnificent mushrooms, and I use them to add a touch of class to a cheeky choux pie. Beat this till it becomes nice and glossy. We're nearly there. Look how smooth that's gone now. The Caribbean comes to my kitchen.
But first, I think we better de-bling.
Levi Roots brings a bucket load of sunshine with his baking, and he rustles up happy memories with these tasty treats.
Yeah, baby.
Is it looking good?
It's looking fantastic, fabulous, if I say so.
And Levi provides the inspiration as I combine exotic flavours to make a decadent dessert that has warmth and flavour in every mouthful. So this is layers of butter dough, all the way up.
Yes, you say puff pastry, you mean a difficult pastry.
Yeah. And all my guests get to join me in eating everything. Tuck in, enjoy. As the old song goes, I do like to be beside the seaside. As a baker, I'm always on the lookout for new ingredients to add to my repertoire of pies and puds, and the sea is one of nature's most generous resources. But it's not fish I'm after today. I'm interested in something more unusual: seaweed. Well, I'm here today in a beautiful part of the world on the east coast of Scotland. St Andrews is about 4 miles that way, and the day is glorious. Now, I'm here today to meet a lady who knows a little bit about seaweed. Now, we all know it goes into savoury, but apparently she says it goes into sweet things too. I'm not convinced. Fiona Houston has been harvesting seaweed here for the last 2 years and is building a small business selling it not as a vegetable, but as a spice. Something that adds flavour rather than being the whole dish. What a fantastic place.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
I think I brought the weather with me, actually, to be honest.
No, it's always sunny in Fife.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it is.
It might be cold, but it's sunny. If anyone can convince me to bake with seaweed, I hope Fiona can. I know it's used in savoury, but seaweed in sweets? Really?
Yeah. What seaweed has in it is its natural flavour enhancer. It has in it umami, which is the 5th taste. The other 4 tastes are sweet, salty, sour and bitter. And then you've got this 5th taste, which adds a new taste dimension to your food.
For me, it'd be fascinating, because personally, I've never heard of it before, and I'm dying to try it.
Yes. Well, we're going to go down and show you.
I've never used seaweed in anything, but I'm trusting Fiona that what I imagine is just salty and chewy will work in a dessert. She takes me umami flavour hunting.
I told you the tide was coming in.
It is coming in. Not the easiest place to get to, is it? So is this your place of work then, Fiona?
Yeah, it is. Pretty nice, eh?
It's a supermarket shelf then to you?
Absolutely. There's lots of different varieties of edible seaweeds here. So what we have here is some carrageen, which is traditionally used as a setting agent. It's got gelatin in it. So use that in puddings that need setting. These brown seaweeds here, these kelps, they're all very rich in umami, and they've got quite a high sugar content. There's quite a high carbohydrate in these. Natural sugars.
It's like rubber, isn't it?
That is there, yeah. Of course, we're not using it like this. We dry them so that they're easy to use. And there's another one, which is about a bit further out, which I'm not going to take you to.
I haven't got my scuba kit with me, otherwise I would.
Which are two other kelps which have a very high sugar content. And this dulse here, which is really interesting in desserts with chocolate and coffee and things.
And this is sweet?
Well, it's got some sweetness in it. They're all different varieties of sweetness. The kelps have got more natural sugars in than that one does.
Fiona enlists the help of Rory and his handmade boat to float the seaweed ashore. They had permission from the estate owners here and other places around Scotland to land seaweed, taking just what they need. Fiona doesn't just use seaweed straight from the sea, it has to dry first to release the umami flavour.
We're going to take some of this fresh dulse.
Yeah.
And we're going to put it in here. And we're actually going to roast it. This is a very traditional way of eating dulse on the east coast of Scotland.
Okay. While the dulse is roasting, Fiona's got something else for me to try.
This is the sugar kelp. And that, see that powder on there?
Yeah.
That is the umami powder.
The initial flavour is not too dissimilar to salt meets a chilli. It feels like heat, and then you realise it's salt, and then that goes as well. And what's left is there's no taste. I'm not getting taste. I'm getting a sensation on my tongue.
Yeah.
Which is different.
Yeah.
At last, the dulse is ready to taste.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Where's seaweed been all my life? There's so many things now that I'm thinking I could work with on this level.
This is the thing with seaweed. Once you get into it, your mind goes in so many different directions.
To show me how versatile it can be, Fiona's brought with her some examples of cakes seasoned with seaweed. And I'm keen to see how it tastes.
Okay.
Chocolate brownie cheesecake. And this has got a sweet alaria in it, and it's also got the dulse on the top to combine with the chocolate.
I am getting quite strong flavours coming through in there. And I'm trying to break it down in my mind to find this, because I know what they're like individually.
Yeah.
And I can't find it.
Well, that's the sort of
Because
the
it's enhanced,
background.
that's its job.
Yeah.
Its job is to enhance the flavours that are currently there.
Next is a lemon polenta cake, with seaweed both in the main mixture and sprinkled on top.
Lemon's such a strong flavour
Yeah.
that all that's doing is enhancing that lemon. It's making the lemon more lemony.
Yeah.
The seaweed definitely accentuates these dishes. It's not a flavour you can detect, it just makes things inexplicably delicious. But it's not until Fiona shows me a selection of crumble toppings blended with different seaweeds that I find something I can really work with.
It's delicious. Whoa. It's sweet. It's sweet. How much sugar did you have with that?
50 grams of sugar with all of it.
Yeah, that's quite low actually.
It's amazing how much sweetness is coming from something that I thought would be salty.
I tried to come here with an open mind, but in the back of my mind I still had the thought, it's seaweed, it's salt. But in fact, it's much, much more than that. And I'm now going to come up with a crumble recipe using seaweed.
Excellent.
In and on.
In and on.
Yeah.
Good.
What Fiona has shown me today is a new ingredient that isn't a flavour in itself, but something that enhances the flavour it's with, and I'm going to give it a go in my next pud. I've invited Fiona back to my kitchen to help me bake with my newfound ingredient, seaweed. This crumble is full of nutty and earthy flavours. I'm hoping enhanced by some of Fiona's natural seaweed flavour.
The thing that got me was the fact that it works with sweet and savoury.
Yeah, that's what people don't expect, and it works really well in baking and sweet puddings because it's got natural sugars in it.
What I'm going to do here at the moment, I'm just chopping up some apples. I'm just going to prepare them for the crumble. Now, this is quite tart, and you want something that's sort of going to balance with that as well. So the crumble on the top is quite sweet, but I'm also going to use that seaweed in there as well, which I think should blend quite well, doesn't it?
It's got some smoky, salty notes, and it's got a seaweed in it that's got quite a high sugar content. So it's got a mixture of sweet and salty.
And is there much call for it
When we started doing this a few years ago, people thought we were completely mad, and now all interest in seaweed is increasing.
They're laughing on the other side of the faces now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Heat the chopped apples in a pan and add some butter.
I'm just going to stir this round and basically soften up the apples. And it should take no more than 5 to 10 minutes max. Now, once it's softened, you place the whole thing into a cooling bowl like this. So it ends up just al dente. There's a little bit of bite in there, but not much.
Then, add your blackberries and transfer them to a baking dish.
Spread them all out. Pop that down there.
This is one of my favourite crumble toppings. Even if you don't have seaweed, pumpkin and sunflower seeds make it earthy and nutty.
Once the oils are released from this when they're roasting, I think they're going to add something to it. So a rough chop of the seeds. Now add that to the mixture. Begin to break that down again.
Add oats and some dark brown sugar and mix it up.
And then finally, the best ingredient of the lot.
The seaweed blend.
Now, how much did you put in of this into yours?
I probably put in more than you're doing, because I really wanted you to taste the different flavours of the seaweed. I think I put in about 2 dessert spoons.
I was going to put that in.
Yeah.
That's about the same.
Yeah.
Give that a good mix together.
People ask us all the time, well, how much do I use? And it's the same as if you're using any other seasoning. You season to taste.
Yeah.
So you can either put it in your crumble or your breads or whatever and put in enough so that, because you like the taste, or you can put in just enough so it lifts the other flavours in the dish.
I want to be able to have that hint of a taste, but also I want the seeds to come out. I want the pumpkin seed, I want the sunflower seeds to come out. I want the oats to be heightened. I want the wholemeal flour to smell beautiful and earthy to go with that beautiful apple and blackberry base. Now, the whole dish is done. Now, that needs to go inside an oven at 180 for about 30 to 35 minutes. I'm going to pop this in there now. Let that roast away. This is how it comes out. That, for me, is a great crumble. That's an apple and blackberry crumble with a seaweed topping.
This is a great recipe with seaweed, and it's pretty good without too. The nutty, crunchy, wholesome topping complements blackberry and apple perfectly. Still to come, wake up and smell the mushrooms? I meet the lads who grow fantastic fungi out of thrown away coffee. I put them to work in my kitchen.
That's grand, that, mate.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you very much. That's spot on there.
And I put their produce to good use in these gorgeous savoury buns. And the sweet taste of the Caribbean. I create this amazing dessert that will make the sunshine from your plate, whatever the weather outside.
Oh, yes.
That's gorgeous, that is.
With help from the king of the Caribbean kitchen, Levi Roots.
That's looking delicious.
The pies and puds that I bake are part of me and reflect my upbringing in the north of England. It's only natural that we stick to what we know and love. And I'm sure that's true for you too. Levi, hello.
Respect.
It's a pleasure.
Mr. Paul.
Nice to meet you, buddy.
Cool.
Levi Roots is a musician best known for setting the Dragon's Den on fire with his spicy Caribbean sauce. Today, he's bringing the Caribbean to me. These might look like pasties, but they're actually Levi's Sunshine Pasties.
I mean, when I look at these ingredients,
Yes.
you're gonna bake us something in a minute.
Yes.
What sort of thing do you get from your culture in the way of pies and puds that sort of reflect what's eaten over there?
Yeah, I think it's about the great flavours of the Caribbean. I think people will always think of the Caribbean as a few island. I mean, instantly Jamaica jumps out at you and Barbados.
Yeah.
But if you really think of how it is, it's a plethora of flavours over 50 islands of the Caribbean. You know, people will always think of the Caribbean, they will think of jerk chicken and rice and peas.
Yeah.
But it's just so different. And what, you know, things like what I would use typically as a Caribbean person, there's always a substitute. I mean, for instance, here we'll be using some squash. If I was in Jamaica at this right moment and I'll be cooking you this recipe, I'll probably be using pumpkin.
Yeah.
But squash is something here, very close to the family. Same great taste, so we'll use that instead.
I'm going to hand my kitchen
will
over to you,
relent to
Levi.
that?
You
Will
take
you?
over. It's all yours.
Lord of mercy, as we say that. Lord of mercy. We'll have to turn. I'll probably start singing and stuff, Paul.
Do whatever you want, mate.
You know
I
what
don't
it's just
care.
about like that. You know, Caribbean people brings a bit of music in there. But first, I think we better de-bling.
I'm loving that. You must have biceps like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And the size of these rings, you can get a souffle underneath. It's good to take it off there. Yeah. So what I'll be doing, Paul, I'll be doing, you know, I'd say perhaps it's the Caribbean's greatest fast food.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something that really, you're on the street, you know, you're on your way to work or from work or you're taking the kids out. It's just something that everybody goes in and buy a patty.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, a patty. And the history of the patty, I've got to say that the history comes from here, right in the UK. Because Lord Falmouth became governor of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And he brought the pasty,
Yeah.
the Cornish pasty, to Jamaica. And of course, Jamaica had to do something special with it. So we dubbed it up. We give it a makeover and call it the patty.
Yeah.
Different shape.
Yeah, yeah.
Different things on the inside, and now it's used.
Yes.
And the patty was born. And recently, I actually went down to Cornwall to see whether or not the Jamaican patty could beat the original Cornish pasty. And do you know what happened?
What?
Lord of mercy, the patty won.
You're joking?
The patty won in a taste. People love the fact that the shape was quite small, that you can actually just pick it up and have a couple of bites and you're through. Where was the pasty, the traditional pasty?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a
I couldn't
minute.
have believed it myself, but it worked.
You're going to have to prove it to me now.
Levi has some sweet yellow peppers, carrot and squash, which he's already boiled for around 4 minutes until it's slightly softened but still have a bit of bite.
The difference with the patty and the pasty, and I think one of the most striking things about the Caribbean pasty or the Jamaican pasty is the color. And people always say, how do you get that color? And it's just simple. It's a bit of turmeric.
Levi adds some butter and rubs it into flour and turmeric.
I love the fact that there's turmeric in there.
Because of that lovely sunshiny color, and of course I've called these sunshine patties.
Of course.
Of course, and because of the colors of the vegetables that you put in there, just really makes it look nice and sunny. And as you know, things have got to look good on the plate.
Absolutely. You eat with your eyes first.
You eat with your eyes first. It's all about presentation.
When the butter's rubbed in, Levi adds a tiny bit of water.
Do you enjoy baking, though?
I've got to say, in the Caribbean, baking is not really one of the things that you'll find a lot of people do. Because I grew up never seeing an oven. One of the most popular baking styles of the Caribbean, and I'm going to let you say it because I love to hear you speak a bit of Jamaican right here on your own program, so I can have a laugh.
Right, go on then. Take the mickey.
One of the most popular Caribbean baking styles without an oven is called Ella top, Ella bottom, Hallelujah in the middle.
What?
What?
Do you want to write that down? On the top, on the bottom.
Yes,
yeah.
Hallelujah in the middle. And hell meaning fire. Because how it was is my granny used to make the pudding by putting stones on a bit of cloth, put stones on top, fire underneath, so it's Ella top, L fire at top, L fire at the bottom, and Hallelujah in the middle.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
And the Hallelujah is the deliciousness that you've got cooking inside in there. Brilliant, without no oven. So baking wasn't really something that, every Caribbean sort of people do, especially, in oven styles, because poor country, more likely you cooked outside.
Yeah.
So there you go, basically that's it. You got it, 30 minutes.
That's a lovely dough there. That's lovely.
30 minutes in the freezer.
Yeah.
And you're nice and lovely. No fuss on fire, but we've got one that we made earlier.
Yes. And I think it's good to relax it, isn't it? Because it just helps rolling it out.
Yeah, it really does. So now your vegetables are nice and soft.
Yeah.
We won't squash these because I think you look like a rustic type of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Levi adds some sweet corn, some spring onions, and some cheese.
Best to use double Gloucester because again, we talk about sunshine patties, so the colors are just so vivid. I think it's brilliant.
Years ago, you were saying that there wasn't many ovens in there. How did they bake off the patties? Were they baked in a bakery and then sold, or were they made at home on a pan?
No, made in a bakery. Made in a bakery. Okay. I think by then, people were baking on. But I mean, when my granny taught me the way to cook and the stuff that we had in our house, we never had a cooker. I can never remember my granny using a cooker, but yet we ate everything that possibly you can think of.
It's amazing what you can cook on a hob.
Lord of mercy. Now, I'm going to put something in your ear pod because, as I says, I like it hot, man, you know, hot, hot, hot.
That's going to be a bit of a blazer.
Yes, got to big up the Scotch bonnet. Because I think that the Scotch bonnet are the only one that gives you a flavor. So I'm just going to put a few stripes in there, not too much. And I've left the casing on the inside.
Yeah.
Which is really the power, which a lot of people think is the seeds, but it's not really the seeds.
Right,
it's that casing in there. So we've put a little bit in there because I want to surprise you when you try it. Yeah, so once it's done, you will have to start wrapping it. Be like, tick goes the tack, Rolex my watch, Savory suits and diamonds in my locks. I'm taller than Shaq, I'm madder than Max. I'm so swaggerific with style and panache. I've got these 8 bars a track before right. He's dying to say, please, Levi, don't pour that.
No. It's not something I do in the bakery because I just get ripped into.
Cooking is about fun, you know, it
Absolutely.
really is. You gotta have as much fun as you possibly can while you're doing it.
I'm starting to wonder how my friend Levi gets anything cooked at all.
So anyway, we've got it here. What we're gonna do, we're just gonna scoop some stuff within the middle of it and make the patty. This is really, really easy. Really easy, come on, let's do this.
But I have to admit, colour-wise, he has it going on.
I mean, you can do it exactly how you want, but I would just get it in the middle, group it together.
Yeah.
A bit of egg white around the side, as you do. And then it's just to lock it up.
This is the key bit. I know in southwest England, there's a certain way of doing it to make it into a Cornish pasty. There's so many crimps that they do.
Crimps in, yes.
Does that make a difference in the Caribbean?
It does. And also the Cornish pasty, I think originally it floats upwards.
Yeah. Well, you got that one, and then you got the flat one.
Absolutely, because I think back in the day, I heard that it used to be for the miners.
That's right.
And they used to be able to use the pastry a couple of times.
That's right.
So it was just like your handbag.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to work with your pastry that you've used like four, 5 times days ago, and you're still using the same thing again. But it was brilliant. But this is the Dubwise. You just some sort of egg on there, and I would just give it a prick. Because I think the version of this patty, because of the way it is, it would need to breathe a little bit so that it comes back nice. So.
And how long will that bake for then?
20 minutes in the oven, really hot oven.
Yeah.
Or 20 minutes or until it's nice and brown.
Okay.
You know, because it will react differently.
Fantastic.
And that's it. Yeah. Yeah, baby.
Is it looking good?
It's looking fantastic. Fabulicious, if I say so. Let's get them out.
We're pretty happy if it's going to rival the Cornish pasty in Cornwall. They look great.
Fantastic.
Oh, they look lovely.
They are, aren't they? And great for kids. I think kids would love this, you know. Their own patty, it gives each kid their own. Fantastic, they love that.
That looks fantastic, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Levi's Sunshine Pasties are a bite-sized taste of the Caribbean. Spicy, vibrant, and packed with vegetable goodness. My next recipe takes an often overlooked ingredient and celebrates its beauty in this delicious savoury snack.
Rather than use the good old button mushroom, I want to find the right fungus for the job.
I've heard about a group of lads on the south coast who have developed a highly unusual and eco-friendly way of cultivating mushrooms.
Oh, big haul today. Excellent stuff.
Instead of using bog-standard compost, they collect the used coffee grounds which would otherwise go to landfill.
Coffee's here, Rob.
The mushroom growing process begins with the spawn.
The mushroom spawn is always growing. So what you're doing here is just giving it a nice medium for it to grow through. This cement mixer, it may seem a bit strange, but it's actually a really useful way of ensuring a fine quality mix. And also the mushrooms really do love to grow in coffee grounds. It's very nutritious. The mushrooms that come out of it have got a very deep flavour, very earthy. It's got a nice range of nutrients from which to draw upon to make its mushroom. So once the mix is nicely combined, we bag it up into these grow bags where it stays for about 2 to 3 weeks, during which time the mushroom grows from the seed throughout the coffee grounds. So once that's ready, I then seal the bag, and there we have one grow kit.
After bagging, the next stage is the fun bit, the growing.
Well, this room is basically, it's where the mushrooms do their thing in the dark. This is the airing cupboard, essentially. We keep this room in the dark because the mushrooms don't need the light to take over the coffee like this. It's essentially, if they were growing inside a natural tree in its natural environment, they'd be in the dark. So for this stage, all they need is darkness and some coffee. The great thing about these packs is it enables people to grow their own mushrooms using the exact same technique that we use to grow the ones that we supply to restaurants. But actually, because we use the same technique for the kits as we do for our fresh mushrooms, they grow really quickly. Well, this is the exciting part, because basically within 2 weeks you'd get your own harvest of mushrooms. So these are pearl oyster mushrooms, which is a species of oyster mushrooms. They're actually native to the UK, and they grow on trees normally in dead wood. So they grow really well with the coffee because it has the same sorts of minerals and nutrients for it. But after about a week, tiny little mushrooms come out like this, real mini little ones. They're called pinheads. And you can see they're all perfect little mini mushrooms. This is the end of the first week. In the second week, it is where the kind of fun starts, because literally they double in size every single day.
These mushrooms are a highly versatile variety which have a velvety skin, firm texture and a rich peppery flavour. You can use them in everything from soups to risottos, and as well as the obvious taste, these fat-free fungi pack a list of health benefits as long as your arm.
These are quite different to the mushrooms you tend to get in England. They're not the same as butter mushrooms. These are a lot more gourmet. You can do numerous things with them. They're good to eat as you are. You can just have them raw. They taste quite nutty and quite creamy, and they've just got a really nice, unique flavour. They're great on rustic bread or some like pie crust or something a bit crunchy. The texture, the difference, it goes really well in your mouth. It's fantastic.
You get actually several harvests. The first one's really impressive, and it's always beautiful to see the mushrooms growing for the first time. And then after around 10 days, you'd water it again, and that just snaps it into action for the second harvest. And then once you've finished harvesting mushrooms from the kit, you're actually left with a really nutrient-rich compost. So once the mushrooms get to this sort of size, they're perfect for harvesting, and it's really straightforward to harvest. All you do is just take the bouquet, try and get it all off in one go, hold it at the base, give it a little twist. So that's almost the whole bouquet.
As they grow on the log themselves, sometimes there's a little bit of coffee residue comes off, so we chop that off just so you're left with nice clean mushrooms. So that's the sort of bit I'm talking about, get rid of that. And then just break these up so you're left with some nice individual mushrooms, and you can really see how delicate they are underneath, like the frills and whatnot. They just look beautiful. They're very versatile mushrooms. Anything you do with normal mushrooms, you can do with these and it will taste better.
It seems the caffeine-fueled mushroom business is booming, and the real beauty for me is they sell the mushrooms back to the people they got the coffee from in the first place. I can't wait to try something special with these funky fungi. And I'm going to use some of the lads' mushrooms in my savoury choux bun recipe. Welcome to my kitchen.
Thank you.
Now, tell me about these different strains of mushroom.
They're oyster mushrooms. We've got the pink oyster mushroom and the pearl oyster mushroom. The pink oyster mushrooms, naturally you'll find it in slightly warmer temperatures, so Mediterranean areas or tropical areas. But what we've found it works really well is someone's house, because it's obviously nice and warm, it doesn't get too cold, so it grows great in someone's kitchen or whatever. And then the pearl, this is a classic European oyster mushroom.
What I'm going to do now is prepare a basic choux pastry, which is what the mushroom is going to go into. To make the perfect casing for these magnificent mushrooms, I'm using a choux pastry. It's light and fluffy, and what makes it special is that it doesn't need a raising agent. The steam created in the dough when it's baked does all the work. Now, to start with, I'm going to pop my water in the pan, and the butter goes in the pan. And again, softened butter. So what I'm going to do is cook this out. So I'm going to melt this down to start with. Then we're going to add the flour to that, to the butter and water. And this is where you've got to carry on stirring. I think choux pastry is so versatile. Most people think it's a one-trick pony, but actually making a savoury one. But there's certain techniques you need to use when cooking with choux, when baking with choux.
It's all about drying out the inside to create something that's got that crunch on the outside, a little bit of softness on the inside.
So it's important to keep stirring it at that point rather than let it walk away for 5 minutes.
Because it's like putting a dry dough in a pan. So you've got heat coming at the bottom and it'll just burn.
Yep.
So you just keep on moving it, building up that gluten that's in there to form a decent roux or a decent paste. You see it's become quite smooth now, shiny.
Sure.
So that roux, I'm happy to take it off the heat now and then begin to crack my eggs in there. Mix that nice and gently to start with, and then mix it all round. 2, that's the 4th egg going in now. Carry on mixing this round.
And you're doing it off the heat there?
I'm doing it off the heat. It's still got a lot of residue heat in there, you see. And then the more you beat it, it comes together as a paste. Now, at that stage, I'm just going to stop for a minute because I'm going to add some thyme. And again, these are savoury choux buns, so this little addition of thyme should marry up quite well with your mushrooms. I don't want to add too much because the flavour of thyme's quite strong.
Yep.
And I want to be able to taste your mushrooms. And I'll chuck them straight in. Beat this till it becomes nice and glossy. We're nearly there. Look how smooth that's gone now. Leave that to cool slightly, probably for about 10 minutes, and then pop that into a piping bag. I'll put that to one side.
You can smell the thyme now as it's getting warm.
Because it's warm, it's released
nice,
the oils in there. And what I've got here is the choux in a piping bag. And then you pipe just dollops of the mixture onto the tray. About the size of golf balls.
Preheat your oven to 220 degrees Celsius. Bake the buns for 10 minutes at the centre until risen and golden. Reduce to 190 degrees C for another 30 minutes. Top the buns with sprinklings of parmesan for the last 5 minutes.
They're your puffed up choux buns, ready to be filled with the lad's mushrooms. Who's going to cook the mushroom?
You do it, Robs?
Yeah, I'll give it a go, yeah.
So have you cooked before then, Rob?
Well, actually, before I turned my hand to mushroom farming, I used to work in kitchens all around the place.
Right, that's great.
But I don't want to big myself up too much, you know. I crack on.
It's on heat now. If you need any wooden spoons, they're all behind you, mate, OK?
OK, cool. Well, hopefully it's all under control. I've done this before, fortunately.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is a good thing.
OK,
Nice.
so just chop up your shallots.
Yeah, so I'm just going to chop them up quite finely, just because when they're small, they can coat the mushrooms quite nicely.
Yeah.
So you don't have a big chunk of onion, a big chunk of mushroom. You've got mushroom and onion.
Yeah.
So just chop them up like this. Pan's getting nice and hot.
Yeah.
I'm going to chuck some butter in there because when you're a mushroom farmer, you need all the calories you can get. I'm going to burn the butter. I just mix this round. We get the oil and the butter nicely mixed and real hot. And because like the mushrooms are super delicate, they've got a great flavour on them because they're grown on the coffee.
Yeah.
And also because, because they're literally right there growing, and then they're going to go in the pan. They're so fresh that there's not really any need to do too much to them.
Next, Robbie adds some finely chopped garlic. You don't have to cut your garlic quite as fast as Robbie.
So I've got my mushrooms here.
Yeah.
I just like to tear them down the middle, keep them quite big, keep their shape, because that's one of the unique things about these mushrooms. The onions are nice and brown now, and the pan's nice and hot, so I'm just going to chuck them all in.
Yeah.
Give them a
How
little...
long will you cook them for? Just literally...
2 minutes.
2 minutes, that's
if
it?
that, yeah. Just to heat them through, because like I say, the flavour's all in there.
Yeah.
So you just let them do the talking, really.
Robbie's keeping things simple with the mushrooms to make the most of their natural flavour. All it takes is a squeeze of lemon juice, a spot of sherry and a big spoonful of creme fraiche.
And then stir in that creme fraiche into the mushrooms.
Smells really good.
Smells beautiful.
Yeah.
And get that all, and the sherry's coming up as well.
Let's have a look. That's grand, that, mate.
Yeah?
Go and sit
I
down,
like it.
Robbie. Round of applause,
Cheers.
mate. Well done.
Thank you very much.
That's
man, Rob.
spot on there. That's brilliant. I like that. They're beautiful and soft. And I've got a little bit of sauce in there to play with as well.
Now I'm going to add some salt, pepper and some chopped parsley.
Stir that together, and I would say that's it.
And now, time to fill your choux buns.
These have cooked down beautifully, these mushrooms. They really have. Oh, yes. Now that, for me, is a miniature pie. Because I've done a very similar one, but much bigger. So you can do a huge choux bun and just pack it full of mushrooms, cut it and serve it. But they're miniature little pieces of delight. That is the savoury choux buns cooked by Robbie and me.
Choux really is a versatile pastry, so don't think of it as just eclairs and profiteroles. With a savoury filling like this, they make a proper little pie. Earlier, King of Caribbean cuisine, Levi Roots, showed me how to make sunshine patties, these tasty traditional Jamaican snacks.
Levi's dish has got me feeling totally tropical, so I'm going to respond with my banana tarte tatin.
Lord of mercy.
This decadently sweet pud is a twist on the traditional apple version, but with a whole load of added summertime, and it all starts with a caramel.
Now what I've got here is a pan, which I'm going to put my sugar in. I'd like to add a little bit of water sometimes, just to help break that down. So in there you've got the heat, it's caramelising the sugar, it's melting the sugar.
Let me come and have a look at that tatin, see what you're doing over there.
So you can see the caramel, the sugar's burning.
Yeah.
And then it's forming, it's burning it, so it's turning brown.
That looks
and
brilliant.
and that's what the caramel is.
That
So
looks
it's
great.
toffee sauce. Now at the moment you can see the colours going a little bit dark around the outside.
Yeah.
This is going to be the key thing in a tarte tatin. You want that beautiful, rich, dark colour when you tip it out into the plate. Now that's the perfect colour. It's going quite dark now. I'm going to add the butter to that.
Yep.
And that will melt the butter in that, turn into a form of toffee. Melt it all in the sugar. Then you begin to chop up your bananas.
Your nanas.
Bananas.
Chop your bananas into 2 to 3 centimetre chunks, and then remove the pan from the heat.
So what I'm going to do now is put some rum in there.
Oh, yes.
That's gorgeous, that is.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You want that beautiful rum flavour in there. What I'm doing is standing up the bananas inside the caramel. You can smell what's happening to the bananas already, the caramelising.
Absolutely.
My mother used to cook occasionally the apple one.
Yeah.
But because I had a big family, we always fought for the food. You wanted to eat as quickly as possible, because if you didn't, your brothers got to it.
Yes. I mean, and isn't this a nice, simple, fantastic recipes? I mean, people talk about Caribbean food and think it's difficult, but for me, this is as easy as you can get.
Of course it is. That's the beauty of this
And
dish.
delicious.
Oh, yeah. The flavours that bananas impart with sugar, it's almost like a, you know, like a banoffee pie.
Yeah.
Think of it like a banoffee pie. You pack those bananas in there, that will be the last one. And so the next thing to do is prepare the lid.
Cool.
Now, the lid, what I've done, I've made a puff pastry. This is a full-blooded puff pastry. So this is layers of butter dough, all the way up.
Yes, you say puff pastry, I mean a difficult pastry.
Yeah. I mean, you could use a cheats pastry where you grate the butter. You could use a rough puff, which goes into the dough.
But not our Paul.
No.
Not our Paul.
I want a full-blooded.
Yes, and it's just the layers, really. It's just layering it and sort of over and over again.
Folding it over and over again to get those layers really thin. The dough's got to be cold, and when you put this into the oven, it hits that heat and goes poof, baby.
Infusion.
Yeah. OK, now let's look at the size of this. And that go over there. That's about right. Now what I'm going to do is get a knife, and I'm sort of guessing what size this is going to be. And I might use that. That's big.
Okay.
Perfect. It gives me a rough idea of what size I've got to take this to. If I lift up that, that's the right. Now I know that's the right height. It'll be exactly the same that way. So I can trim that down. Then I can round this off, because it's got to sit inside the pan. You can have a little bit of overlap, but you've got to be able to tuck it inside. Like this, get your pastry, throw it on the top, and then push it down into the corners, like that. So what you've got is your caramel, you've got your layer of bananas, and then you've got this puff pastry, which is still cold, and the whole thing goes into quite a hot oven, where you want to put it in about 200, for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, what I'm going to do is pop this into an oven, but fortunately...
It's a Blue Peter moment.
I have got one.
Yes.
Now, because of the rum in there, because the liquid in the bananas...
Don't chuck the rum away.
Just pouring off some of the excess,
You
that's
got me
all.
getting up there for a minute there. You're chucking rum away.
I'm not, it's just the fluid coming from the
Okay,
bananas.
all right.
I don't want too much of it, you see. So I'm just draining off some of the excess liquid.
Do?
So, you get your plate, pop it on the top, and then turn the whole thing upside down. And the whole thing pops out
Yeah.
like that.
That's looking delicious.
And so you've got your banana tarte tatin with your rum toffee right in the middle.
That is something.
Baby.
Baby. Respect.
Thanks, Levi. You're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to try it.
My banana tarte tatin is pure summertime on a plate. Just close your eyes and imagine a gorgeous sunset with every mouthful.
I'm not gonna mess around with
It's been great to welcome friends to help me create some wonderful dishes today. There's Fiona, who helped me find just the right seaweed to add a new twist to my crumble. Levi, who taught me how to make these tasty sunshine patties and inspired me to rustle up this decadent banana tarte tatin. And John, Alex and Robbie for adding their amazing mushrooms to my savoury choux buns.
So, guys, I think
Yes.
our plates are full. Tuck in, enjoy.
And first, Levi's spicy golden patties.
That's packing a bit of a punch, isn't it, that patty? Isn't it? It's got a bit of heat in there.
Oh, I can tell for that hellfire in the patty.
Yeah.
You got that bit, did you?
Yeah, I got that bit, yeah.
The flavours in there are gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Lovely pastry.
Yeah.
They're really soft, crumbly.
And moving on to the mushrooms,
Those mushrooms are fantastic, boys. Welcome.
I gotta say, the mushroom, which I was a bit apprehensive about, is absolutely
You like?
brilliant.
Oh, wow.
And it works so well with the choux bun and the cheese on top as well. You got all the different flavours in your mouth at once. And it's
Yeah.
all the different textures as well, the crunchiness and the softness of the mushrooms. It's fantastic.
and my Caribbean twist on a tarte tatin.
It's a celebration of banana. But then you've got that toffee. And if you had a little bit of custard on top of that as well, or cream, takes you to heaven.
Yeah.
And the crumble with that special seaweed topping.
The seaweed, so it's got red, green and brown in it.
Well, I like the seeds in there because obviously the texture, you've got to break them down with your teeth as well. It's not just straight away to the back of your throat. You've actually got to kind of work for it, so grind it down. You get more flavour from it.
I love the topping too. Because a lot of people would just use, you know, a normal crumble, but I think this is like a blinged out crumble. It's got everything in there. It's got everything, yeah.
I'm going to go with blinged out crumble.
Can I use that, please?
Great food goes everywhere, from Scotland to Brighton to Jamaica. This is what it's all about. Good company, good food. See you next time. Cheers.